The hour of 7 o'clock having arrived, I'll call the council to order. Let the roll reflect that all council members are in attendance and a quorum has been established. First of all, I want to make an announcement. If there's anyone here tonight who's expecting a discussion on the Bailey Street reconstruction, due to some errors in the printing of the announcement, that's going to take place on the next council meeting on March 21st at 7 p.m. So earlier there was some information that went out that it might be at this council meeting on March 7th, but because of a printing error and getting public notification out correctly, that will now take place on Monday, March 21st. Okay? So that, anyone here for that? All right. Next, we're going to have a presentation, a certificate of recognition for Planning Commissioner Russ Roloff, who's served 6 years on the Planning Commission. And John, I'll turn it over for you for the presentation.
Well, Mr. Mayor, City Council members, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity tonight to express staff's gratitude and gratitude to the community to Russ Roloff for his years of service, not only on the Planning Commission, but also in various other capacities throughout the city. Officially, we're recognizing him tonight for the service on the commission itself, which is 6 years. So over the last 6 years, since 2010, Russ has been involved in the review of many important projects we've had throughout the city, including the Great Rivers Landing Project, Quick Trip, the CVS Pharmacy, many plats that have come through. In addition to that, Russ helped us out early on with our comprehensive plan, the document that we use to chart our growth and development over the next 20 years. He was an integral part of that commission. Prior to that, he also served on the park board, and as you know, he's also on the school board right now. So Russ is really a testament to service in the community. And so we want to thank him tonight for his service to us and to the Planning Commission. I've always appreciated, Russ, the insight that you have and how well connected you are to what public opinion is. I think that's very helpful in having public review before the commission. So Russ, I've got a certificate to present to you tonight on behalf of the city, recognizing your years of service, and I want to thank you so much for your continued service to the community. Thank you, Jim. Thank you.
The great city of Hastings has many wonderful volunteers. Russ, you're one of them, and there's many others who help make our community work because just caring about the community, willing to give up your time and talent to promote the general welfare of the people of our city. And so we appreciate everything you've done, and on behalf of all the volunteers for the city of Hastings and around our community in whatever capacity that might be. Thank you. Next, council, we have before us tonight the minutes of the regular meeting, regular city council meeting of February 16, 2016. Is there any additions or corrections to the minutes of that meeting? Seeing none, they stand approved. Council items to be considered. Any council items to be considered? Seeing none, council will go to consent agenda. Council, what's your wish? Councilmember Brox makes a motion to approve, seconded by Councilmember Schultz. That motion is now before the body. Councilmember Balsanic.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to have item Roman numeral 6-18 removed from the consent agenda and brought onto the regular agenda. I have some comments that I think
Show me. Number 18?
Yes.
Okay, number 18 on the consent agenda, we'll move that to under administration, last item under administration. Okay. Okay, thank you. Any other comments? We do have a motion to accept the consent agenda before us, or any discussion, further discussion to that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails. Okay, next we'll go to community development. We have a resolution before the City Council, consideration of a site plan and variance at 2551 Glendale Road. John, welcome to the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council members. Before us, we have a couple of approvals related to 2551 Glendale Road. The location is noted before you on the screen. It's about a 2-acre property located just south of Ravenna Trail to the north, and east of the Glendale Heights development. The two actions we have are site plan approval to construct a 3,800 square foot building. The other is a variance to the minimum lot size requirement. With both those actions, the vote total requirement in order for the item to pass is a little bit different. The site plan does require a simple majority, where the variance would require 6 of 7 votes. Going through some of the background information, you may recall that this 2-acre site was the home of a landscape company prior to 2012. The landscape company buildings burnt down at that time. It's been vacant since, and the applicant is proposing to construct a 3,800 square foot storage building within the site itself. From a review standpoint, the Planning Commission did review this at their February 22nd meeting, voting 5-0 to recommend approval of both the variance and the site plan. There was no one that spoke at the meeting, and we haven't heard any other comments since the meeting on this request. So looking at the variance itself, we take a look at unique circumstances in order to grant the variance. We are recommending approval of it and citing some aspects that are within the resolution for approval. It's surrounded with properties of similar size at 2 acres. These ag sizes below 10 acres are really limited to Glendale Road, as you can see here. The intent of the zoning district for ag is to limit intensity of development so that there's not a need for urban services. The storage building would meet the intent of that district. And applying the 10-acre minimum lot size, which is the general lot size in this area, would essentially render the property useless. And since there was already development on that property in the past, and more intensive development, frankly, than the development that's being proposed today, we're supportive of the variance and supportive that the reasons and rationale for it are unique to the site itself. So that is the variance discussion. On the site plan itself, this is another view of the property. The applicant proposes to build about a 48 by 80 building, which would look like this. So it has a unique character to the building itself, looks like something you'd find in an agricultural district. That being said, a couple of things that we looked at in the review that are a little bit unique to this building and the site when applying standards are the architectural. The architectural standards are really would not allow this type of building to be constructed within the strict interpretation of them. There is areas within the architectural standards that allow for material substitutions. And being that this property itself is zoned agricultural, not within the urban service area, and the design of the building itself is in character with what one would find in an agricultural district, we are supportive of this modification and the substitution of materials. The materials themselves would be metal with the cladding as shown here, porch area, and some of the other details that you show within the building. We find it to be a nice looking building for the site. That being said, on the landscaping side as well, we're looking at landscaping for only a portion of the property. We're supporting a base calculation that would have 2 trees and 5 shrubs as part of the development requirement. That being said, we are recommending approval of this subject to the conditions within your report. Mike Bauer, the property owner, is here tonight if you have any questions for him. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, John. This issue, council's before us. First of all, let's take a look at the site plan. In regards to the site plan, Councilmember Alangi.
Thank you, Your Honor. John, could you, I'm noting in your memo to the council that we're talking about 3,840 square foot storage building, and that also the previous structure, building operated by the landscaping company Outdoor Images, was destroyed by fire in 2012. Do you have a sense of how large that building was?
Councilmember, I believe it was larger than 3,840. As far as the size of it, I don't.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Schultz.
Thank you, Your Honor. John, the building is going to be used for storage, no other business applications at this point?
That's my understanding, Councilmember. Within the requirements or recommendations for approval, I did add a specific condition on this one that the use must comply with those uses identified within the ag district. It's just to make sure that everyone is knowledgeable of what uses are allowed within the future.
And what are those uses?
Those uses would generally be storage, agricultural operations, landscape company. That's pretty limited beyond that.
Your Honor, one more question.
Councilmember?
And they're outside of MUSA. So therefore, if there's going to be water facility here, is it a well and a septic? Or
That-
how is it operated?
That would be correct. There would need to be a well and septic. My understanding is the applicant is not proposing either of those facilities at this location at this time.
Not, so there will be no water or anything in there?
Correct.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
Councilmember Balsanic?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple of questions. We're okay on the setbacks then, even though it is a cramped footprint?
That,
The building is doing
that is correct,
Oh,
yes.
yes, thank you.
The setbacks itself would be about 140 feet back from Glendale Road, which is over the minimum setback requirements.
Okay, and then the side yard at, what is it, 38 or 36?
Yeah,
We're
the-
okay with that?
Yeah, correct.
Second question then, have we received any comments from neighboring property owners?
Councilmember, we have not. No comments received.
Okay. And then thirdly, kind of relating to what Councilmember Schultz was asking then, is the storage going to be cold storage then?
I
Is
can.
the understanding?
May I clarify that with the applicant cold storage, Mike? It'll be heated.
It will be heated then, okay. And electric, obviously, then brought in if it's going to be heated as
Yes.
well. All right. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, council? We're in need of a motion. Councilmember Schultz makes a motion to approve, second by Councilmember Alonji. That motion is now before the body. Is there further discussion to that motion on the site plan? This is on the site plan. Okay? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails. Next, we'll go to the variance. Council, I will caution, since it is a variance request, 6 out of 7 votes are required to pass. What's your wish? Councilmember Balsanic makes a motion to approve the variance, seconded by Councilmember Vaughn. That motion is now before the body. Is there further discussion to that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails. Next, we have a resolution in regards to a site plan for the YMCA expansion at 85 Pleasant Drive. John?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. City Council members, on the map before you shows the area of expansion for the YMCA building located on the northeast corner of Pleasant Drive and First Street West. The area in the red shows the approximate expansion area, which would encompass about 13,500 square feet. The expansion area itself would house a large gym recreation area and some other smaller rooms within the site. It would be a two-story addition, similar to what we see here on the existing YMCA, and then a one-story addition closer to Pleasant Drive, as we see here. The Planning Commission did review this on February 22nd, did recommend approval on a 5-0 vote with limited discussion. We have not had any comment from any of the neighbors or from the public regarding the application itself. Looking at the building, this is where it would, the changes that we would see, the building that's open, the space that's open right now towards the front of it, the playground area would be moved to the side, and then the building would be constructed to match what's there at present, including the materials that are there presently. Other changes of note, the parking standards for the property, they would meet those by providing spaces that are already on site, and also through a joint parking agreement that has been recorded to meet the minimum parking requirements. From a landscape requirement, there are a couple of trees that we are asking to be added. One is a substitution for one that has died since the property originally went in, and a couple of new ones for the site itself. So this is the area, what it would look like. Materials of the building would be very similar to what we see presently and would meet the architectural standard requirement. This is a view of what the building would look like. This is the existing building right here. This would be the new area to be constructed, the two-story area, and then the one-story area towards the front. Another view of it here. So we do have representatives present from the YMCA if you have any questions, and I can stand for those as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. Appreciate that presentation. Council, this is now before us. What's your wish? Councilmember Schultz.
Thank you, Your Honor. John, I have a question on the parking. Would it be, can you show me, would it be a lot that way, or would it be that gravel lot that's kind of to the north and east of, which is now, I think, mainly used by staff?
Sure. Officially, There's 147 spaces here. They need, I think, 16 more than that. Officially, the 16 spaces would be accommodated here, which is an improved lot. However, this lot does exist. We're not counting it as parking because it hasn't been approved, but in actuality, people use it to park.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Councilmember Lodgy?
Thank you, Your Honor. John, I'm noting that the playground is currently fenced. Is it safe to say that it would still be fenced once we move it a little bit closer to Pleasant Drive?
That is correct, council member. In fact, what will happen is there will be an entrance directly from the building into the playground area itself, so it'll be fully contained.
Okay. Super. Thank you, Your Honor.
Councilmember Vaughn?
Thank you, Mayor. Just to follow up with that, John, is there a setback off of that road for that playground, because it's getting closer than the building?
It is, yep, it's a little closer than the building on that one. Within the public institution district, there's not a prescribed setback for buildings or structures itself. Looking at the setback, we were comfortable, and given the fact that it would be a little bit higher in elevation on the hill a little bit, we were comfortable with the placement of the playground in that location.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Balsanic?
Oh, thank you, Mayor. I'm already on.
Okay.
I've been on all day. Okay. Talk a little bit about that pond and what it does, and in relation to the addition to the property. You know, things dealing with that.
Okay. Yeah, with the ponding area, it's a stormwater retention pond for treatment of impervious surface from the site itself. Since the site will increase, the impervious surface will increase a little bit by 13,000 square feet approximately, the additional capacity and runoff needed to be quantified so that that pond was able to hold and to meet our requirements for stormwater drainage and retention, which our engineering department has reviewed, and they're comfortable with the size and the volume and rate control of the pond.
All right, thank you.
Is there any further, Councilmember Schultz?
Your Honor, I will make a motion to approving the site plan. I'll make a motion to approve the site plan for the YMCA.
Motion's been made to approve the site plan of the YMCA, seconded by Councilmember Brox. That motion is now before the body. Is there further discussion to the motion? Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Balsanic, for that question. That was going to be my question in relation to the pond, increasing the impervious surface. I looked over the site plan, and it looks very, very fine. It's a fine addition to our community and to the site. And I appreciate the fact that the YMCA is bringing this forward to increase the facilities and expand the what recreationally what can be brought out there at the YMCA. And so it's a nice site overall, and to have this expansion of the 13,000 square feet certainly does it justice. So thank you for bringing this forward to the Y. Is there any further discussion to the motion that's before the body? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion prevails. Next, we have a first reading and order a public hearing for the fee schedule for the Rotary Pavilion. Chris, welcome to the meeting. Very glad to have you here, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. I won't take up too much of your time tonight. Real briefly, we have the wonderful pavilion, Rotary Pavilion down at Levy Park now, and it's time to start putting some fees for rentals and activities that'll happen at Rotary Pavilion in the coming years. So with that, staff researched quite extensively some fees that other communities charge for outdoor event space, picnic shelters, those sorts of things, and we tried to keep it similar to what we're looking at the Rotary Pavilion. Obviously, there's no other Rotary Pavilion, but we did our best in our research. Staff developed some recommendations and brought that to the administration committee early last week. We had very thoughtful discussion about the prices that we're proposing, and ultimately, committee members were comfortable with the proposed fees. So I just wanted to introduce it briefly and let you guys ask any questions if you do have them at this time.
Okay. Thank you for that presentation, Chris. Council, this issue is before us. Is there any further discussion toward this. Councilmember Vaughn.
This is, I know it's the first reading, I'd like to get some input from my colleagues, but the residents, we did talk about the different rates of resident versus non-resident. As you see your packet, you see a difference of roughly $30 for a full day. My recommendation was 120% of the resident, meaning 2.5, 330 instead of 150. So that's why I'd be curious what people think. I just thought that the resident should be getting a better rate than the non-resident if they're rent a million
Okay?
I know it's following our policy, it says 120% greater than the rate of a resident of the Hastings basis at the same service. So I would like to recommend that that non-resident rate is 120% of what the residents are paying.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's your recommendation? Molly, did you have a comment?
Your Honor, I'm going to look to Chris, but I think the $180 is 120%.
It is 120% of the resident rate.
Right.
So 100% is 100, or 150, and then the extra 30 is that 20% on top of 100. So it's not 220%, it's 120% of the resident rate.
So that rate is reflected at 120%.
Correct, and I guess what I'm looking for is, I think it should be even higher. I think a non-resident should have to pay more than just $30 on that rental. I think that we discussed it as a committee, but I think I'd like the council to think, is that enough? Should we be offering more on the non-resident rate for renting that pavilion?
Okay? Councilmember Langi?
Thanks. So I'm happy to give my own personal take on it, Councilmember Vaughn, which is that I think the committee's work on this seems, and the logic seems quite sound. What I like about it is the fact, the recognition of what residents already have paid and will pay in taxes in order to support the structure, while at the same time being reasonable. I think we also want to promote tourism. I think we want to promote people coming to our city from outside to a certain extent, and while it's okay to ask them to pay a little bit more, I wouldn't want to make it look too punitive, especially as we start off. I think I'd rather start low and slowly work them up if we find that demand outpaces our supply, if you will, and let the market do its magic, than for us to come out a little too hot, and then as a result have a resource that seems diminished if it's not being used to its full capacity. That's my personal take.
Okay. Councilmember Brox?
I just have a question about the rate. If a resident was going to ask us, what does this money go towards, did we do any kind of calculation as to like hours of maintenance required or cleanup of the site or things like that, that we can tell them, you know, this is what you're paying for, as opposed to just a blanket rate?
I think in general terms, we would say just those things, that these are what the fees go towards. The fees go towards the ongoing maintenance of the facility, the eventual replacement or major maintenance for the facility. But specific calculations on how many man-hours it takes to maintain that particular facility, no, those aren't, those weren't the calculation. The calculation was going rate for similar facilities, understanding too that this is a much greater rate than any of our other facilities here in Hastings as well, and something we felt that the community and council would be supportive of.
Is there a reason that if I might ask one more question, is there a reason that the fees collected go back to the general fund rather than parks?
It's where all of our park maintenance or park rentals, that's where all the funds currently go.
Okay.
I just had a general question, Chris. You know, when I took a look at this, and I thought, well, let's see now, if I wanted to rent it, I appreciate the fact that we had the Rotary Pavilion and the amphitheater, right, together as a 300-day deal. But it seems to me that they almost kind of go together. And what I mean by that is, let's say I decided one day for half a day to have to take the amphitheater for half a day for $80, okay? And then there was another organization using the pavilion, and they used it for half a day for $80, and we both are at the same time. Depending on the activity, that could be pretty I mean, if I'm paying $80, I would think that I have a little more separation. You know, if there's a group, I don't even know what I'm talking about.
Sure. No, I get you. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, let's say.
Your Honor, can I please interject?
Let me give you an example.
Your Honor, I think I have a new ringtone. Could you say that again?
People have said, "Oh, I must have heard him say that before." But let me say, let's say a church wanted to have a service at the amphitheater, okay? And on that same morning, they had a service, and he's going to have the churchgoers sit in the amphitheater, and he's going to stand right before, and they're going to have a service. But on that same day, for $80, let's say a bunch of farmers might have had their little farmers market on that morning under the pavilion. It just seems like there's a lot of conflict there, and separating those two facilities because they're so closely connected seems hard.
Through our reservations, we have the ability to separate those sorts of events. Certainly, we want everybody's event at every location to be successful. Reservation fees are paid for exclusive use of a very limited facility. For instance, if somebody rents Vermilion Falls Shelter, they don't get the entire Vermilion Falls Park, so somebody can set up right next to them. Typically, that doesn't happen, but if we have an event or something going on in Vermilion Falls Park, and somebody wants to come in and rent a picnic shelter, we're going to do a couple of things. One, we're going to make sure that whoever had that first reservation, their activities aren't going to be impacted by another reservation. Okay. And we're going to make sure that both of them they'll work together. So we're not going to put a rock band in the pavilion and a play performance in the amphitheater. But they have the opportunity, if they want exclusive use of both of those facilities and make sure that nobody else can come around, that they can do that. So that's a vehicle for them to be able to do that.
Councilmember Langi.
On that point, though, Your Honor, one of the things that I did notice, and I've seen pricing schemes like this. I mean, scheme in a very lovely sense. I've seen pricing schemes like this, and I get why sometimes they work. But let's go through the logic. As somebody who's, say, for a resident, because it works. It's true of both of these columns. If I'm a resident and I say, okay, great, I want the pavilion in the amphitheater for the whole day, and it looks like I pay $300. And then I look down at what it costs to get the pavilion, and then I look at what it costs to get the amphitheater, and I say, well, 300 is a little steep, so here's what I'm going to do. I would like to reserve the pavilion. Great. Now I'd like to preserve the amphitheater, and I'll end up paying $250 instead of $300. So why is that pricing model? What do we hope to accomplish with that?
That was likely an oversight.
No, actually, I don't think
I was really hoping there'd be some really cool strategy that we were trying to implement there.
Your Honor, if I may, I don't, while I appreciate the scenario of Councilmember Langi, the $300 a day pricing structure is, if you look at your packet, it's the pavilion, it's the amphitheater seating, and it's the surrounding area. So it's a little bit of a grass footprint around there. So it's a bigger footprint than just the pavilion and adding on the amphitheater seating.
I understand that intellectually
Okay.
and emotionally. I think I still struggle with the idea. I mean, because we have components and we have a whole. And what we're saying is you can reserve these two components at a lower price than what most people would consider to be the whole. If I go through the trouble of getting the amphitheater and the pavilion, and then there are a bunch of people making a lot of noise or doing some stuff or whatever in the surrounding area, and I go, hey, we're trying to have a serious ceremony here, and somebody says, I talked to the city and they said you didn't get the surrounding area, I don't, as unlikely as it is, I think a lot of people who look at this pricing model will wonder why we're doing this, and I think it may scare them off without us even really getting much in the way of feedback on that. They may go, whoa, why don't they allow, what could I normally expect to go through that area? And so rather than making it as inviting as possible, I guess I would try to at least make it appear more logical in that sense, or find some way to explain what it is we're trying to accomplish. It just looks and feels a little bit weird. now that I look at it. But I'll admit that it took the mayor not knowing what he was talking about to make sure
Rhetorically.
to get me to know what I was talking about. So, it's one or the other, I guess.
Okay, Councilmember Balsani.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and I appreciate what Councilmember Alonji is, bringing forth in terms of the perception of the whole thing. When we met as a Park and Rec Committee, without any vote or anything, and correct me if I'm wrong, the members who were there. Pardon? Or it was admin, excuse me, admin committee. I'm on so many committees here, I can't keep up with them. That the idea was that there was a faith and trust in the Parks Department to use proper discretion in terms of, having dual rentals, first of all. And I recall having a couple of questions because in terms of some rental possibilities, we were really expanding the footprint in terms of what, people might want to rent, addition of tents, food trucks, things of that nature. But I think the bottom line is discretion, that when somebody comes in and they say, well, I want to rent the pavilion, now you got somebody else, or that same person, excuse me, would say, well, I want to do the amphitheater and the pavilion. All right, Parks Department is going to show them, all right, what is your footprint going to be? If it's going to be two separate units coming in to rent, the pavilion for one group, amphitheater for another group, there will be a footprint again that is going to be shown to them, and then there are going to be some other, I hate to call them regulations, but there are going to be some policy decisions on the part of Parks that's going to say, well, if you're going to be here, we've got this other group, and there are only certain things that you can or cannot do then on that. And I'm kind of getting away from what you were originally asking for, council member, but I think it's just a matter of discretion on the part of the Parks Department staff to make sure that it does run smoothly. But, I mean, on the surface, you look at it and say, yeah, I can rent both of them separately, save myself $50. But we are saying Rotary Pavilion plus amphitheater and immediate area surrounding the pavilion for the 300. Whereas we're not saying that for the other two separate from each other then. Does it sound like I know what I'm talking about?
I get it.
Thank you.
Councilmember Halaji?
Right, and look, I mean, ultimately, once there's a motion up here, I'm supporting it. We should get moving, we should get some fees established, whatever, it's all good. If we amend it, we amend it, if we don't, we don't. I just want to make sure that when somebody comes to like a little concert that's out there, and let's say we have a young couple that's thinking about getting married, and they're planning their wedding, and they're talking about it, and they say, oh, you know what, you can rent out this space, and there's a sign, something that looks a little bit like this is attached saying, thinking of renting this space, here are the rates, that we make it really easy to remember what the cost is, so that when she and he go home, they talk to whatever set of parents is funding this whole thing, they can say, yeah, you know what, you can do the pavilion out in the Hastings, and it's great, it'll be rain or shine, it'll be a way to make it work, and it only cost, if we want this, it's 150, we want the other half, it's 150, and the two together, you have a savings of $25, rather than kind of making them think the other way around. I was trying to get people to think, like, what incents behavior, and why do people do the things they do, and why they make the choices they make. They make choices when we make them in our favor, when we make it easy for them. And I just want to make it as easy as possible for them. That's all.
Is there a further, do we have a motion?
Your Honor, this is first reading.
Yeah, well, we have to pass the first reading.
Right, you have to pass first reading.
We need a
So we're
motion.
not setting the fee at this point, it's just a
Agreed.
first reading.
That's why I'm
So
supporting
up
it
there,
regardless.
if we need to make changes, we can always make changes. So I'll make the motion for first reading.
Okay, Councilmember Schultz make a motion to approve the first reading and order a public hearing. Seconded by Councilmember Balsanic. Is there any further discussion to the motion? Okay, all those in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails. Okay, next we have the item that was pulled off consent agenda, number 18, approve updated emergency operations plan. Councilmember Balsanic, I will turn the floor to you.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't want to take an awful lot of time because this meeting has gone on for so long. But I wanted to point out that I did attend a seminar last Wednesday that was sponsored by the Federal Emergency Management Authority, FEMA, as we all know. And it was offered to Dakota County elected officials, staff members from cities, and staff members from Dakota County as well. And in relation to our emergency operations plan, which I feel is a very good one, I just wanted to underscore that in the process of the entire evening, there was a general consensus through the discussions in the seminar that we go beyond just the city of Hastings with our emergency operation plan. And the citizens of Hastings should feel very good that it doesn't just happen in terms of Hastings dealing with any kind of an incident. There are other levels, different steps of authority that can step in, starting at the county level, then going up to the state level. Joe Kelly was the facilitator of the seminar the other night. Chief Shute, you probably know Tom, or Joe, excuse me, very well. And then, of course, it goes to the federal level. Just one final thing in terms of exhibiting the confidence in the whole set of operations. We did talk a little bit about other states and how we compare in terms of what we do in that 72-hour period of time when a crisis occurs, and supposedly the crisis is over after those 72 hours, hopefully. That in relation to other states, we are in very good shape in terms of our funding, in terms of the level of personnel that are available, in terms of the equipment that is available. And it's a very reassuring feeling on my part. I wanted to go to the seminar because in the back of my mind, as I move around Hastings, I look at our railroad track going through town with all of the oil tankers coming through. I look out to the east and think about the nuclear power plant. And we've got a real potential problem if something were to happen. But the only thing in our favor at that point is that we are upwind in terms of the prevailing winds. But we do have good planning in effect at this time. And so, what the staff has come up with here in terms of the updated plan is something that just falls right into place with the county, with the state, and with the federal government. There's going to be another series of seminars, I'm alerting our city administrator here, up at Camp Ripley and sometime this summer, and I would appreciate you letting me know when we get the information on that, because I would like to attend that as well. With that, I would make a motion to approve the updated emergency operations plan of the city of Hastings.
Councilmember Balsanic makes a motion to approve the item number 18, the consent agenda, seconded by Councilmember Nelson. That motion is before the body. Is there any discussion to that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails. Next is comments from the audience. Are there any comments from the audience this evening? Okay. Not announcements. Council announcements. Any announcements? Okay, if not, I have a few announcements. The Park Recreation Commission will meet on Tuesday, tomorrow, at 6 p.m. at the Joint Maintenance Facility. The Police Reserve, I see we have a new Parks Commissioner here. Scott, aren't you, isn't that you? Scott Pingelli, so welcome aboard, Scott. Appreciate your volunteerism. Thank you very much.
I spent many meetings covering it as a newspaper reporter, and I was thinking, boy, I wish I could say something, but I couldn't.
I was on the commission when you were doing that beat. Yep, I remember it quite well. So thank you for your service. We appreciate you doing that. Thank you. The Police Reserve Appreciation Dinner will be held tomorrow night at 6:30 p.m. at the Onion Grill. So 6:30. I think 6 o'clock is the social hour. 6:30 is dinner. So at the Onion Grill tomorrow for the Police Reserve Appreciation Dinner. The Planning Commission will be meeting next on Monday, March 14th at 7 p.m. here at Hastings City Hall. The Heritage Preservation Commission will be meeting on Tuesday, March 15th at 7 p.m. at City Hall. HEDRA will next meet on Monday, March 21st at 6 p.m. at City Hall, and that's a Monday meeting. Okay, we'll note that, not Thursday. So Monday, March 21st. The Public Safety Advisory Commission will be meeting on March 31st at 6 p.m. at City Hall. And the annual Spring Cleanup Day will be held on April 30th. That's a Saturday, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Cal Rudy Public Works Facilities, where people will gather and go from there at 1225 Progress Drive. And that's also where they're going to take collection, right? With working our partners with Dakota County and hazardous waste collection and things like that. And then also I think we go out and work on our parks. Is that correct? Do we still do that on that same day? Yeah, so that's right around that time. So those are the announcements, Council. There's no further business before us this evening. A motion to adjourn is in order. Councilmember Schultz makes a motion to adjourn, second by Councilmember Vaughn. All those in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.